tuning in. Uh, we have a special guest for you today. We have Zach Selby. He's a writer for the Washington Commanders, senior writer. Let me say that right, senior writer for the Washington Commanders. We just want to preview the game. We thank Zach for tuning in with us today because I feel like it. Shout out to Joe, Brandon, Mark, and Black Philly, the podcast. Hit that like, subscribe. We're on the road to 4,000. And like Joe says, if y'all get us to 4,000, I won't have to ask you guys to click like and subscribe to get us to 4,000 anymore. So thank you guys for tuning in with us on this dreary Friday. We want to take about 15, 20 minutes of your time to discuss the upcoming Monday night matchup. We have the NFC East leading Eagles hosting a very underrated and sneaky team, in my opinion, the Washington Commanders. Zach, first off, let everybody know where they can reach you, what you do, and a little bit about you, sir.
Yeah, about myself first. This is my fourth season covering Washington, so I have seen uh, how can I say, identities of this team, and that's span Washington football team to the Commanders. Needless to say, it's been a pretty, I'll say that, of the last 3 or 4 years. But it's you see on the website in terms of like article wise is mostly me. You can follow WC, and occasionally I like to bake every now and again, so you'll also see some baking pictures there. That's me, just enjoying this season so far.
All right, so I like we were starting before we get into the matchup. We had briefly touched on it. Um, Daniel Snyder,
Yep.
all the drama, all the distractions. Do you think that actually plays a part in the team's performance and what's going on
Um.
where with the team?
So I mean, I'll give you the answer that Ron Rivera has been saying, because he's been asked about this a lot. What we can say is that they're going to try to focus on what they can control, which is the out. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters to them the most. Their job is to win football, is to do what they can on the field for the fan base. And honestly, I think whatever with ownership and all that, I think they're very much locked into what they're paid to do. And I mean, sometimes it's a bit the questions all the time, and of course that's their job. At the end of the day, I mean, they're focused on the Eagles. Any impact on what's going to happen on my point from 8:15 to midnight is just going to be all about the Washington Commanders versus.
Right. All right. So got that out the way. Quarterback. You guys trade for Carson Wentz, right? You trade for Carson Wentz, and he's supposed to come in because Rivera believes that you have to build around the quarterback. So you trade for Wentz, you bring him in. He doesn't live up to expectations, and now Taylor's going to be the starter at least for the next 2 more games, right?
Well, so he is allowed. So technically, Wentz could come back after this game, but it's all dependent upon his injury, of course.
Okay. So it is possible he can come back after Monday night.
Per league rules, he's allowed to, but I wouldn't say like they're kind of using this patient wait and see sort of approach for him.
Okay, so at 4-5, you guys are still in the mix. Like I watched that Minnesota game. There's no way you guys shouldn't have lost that game. But you're still 4-5. You're still 4-5, and you're still in the mix. Which quarterback do you feel gives you guys a better chance to make the playoffs at this point?
So
if you have a healthy one.
So I'll be I think it's going to come down to whatever coach wants to do. I think both Carson and Taylor have a lot of really good qualities on each side. I think Carson's strength. I think he has that some more veteran experience. But Taylor has come out and no matter what happens, he knows he has moxie. He has his legs. I think it's going to come down, and Rivera has been asked this a lot. Who's going to be the quarterback after Carson is healthy? Of course, he's saying we're going to let the football decision decide for themselves, which is probably the right decision. And I think I feel pretty confident with either of them, honestly, just because of what they're able to do on either sets. I mean, let's not forget that while things were a little bit, you also have to remember this is his first year in the system. He does show you that he has the ability to win his arm, as he showed against the Eagles, or not the Eagles, the Jaguars. The Bears game was ugly, but at the end of the day, he did win that game, and he did make some throws out to win the game. So I think for me, I'm pretty confident with either of them. I think but I think ultimately, I think they feel pretty good about where they're at quarterback, regardless of that. That's the best decision for them.
So you think that they won't be looking to upgrade or draft for a quarterback in the draft? They're going to figure it out between the two guys that they have in the building right now.
Ahead, honestly. I mean, at least not the coaches. I think they're very much focused in, and right now, I mean, like their common answer is that they will is over, as they do with all the positions. But I think right now, I think they feel pretty good quarterback.
All right. Now I have a question for you. Penn State guy, Jahan Dotson. What's up with him? Is he in the mix to play Monday night? Because that makes it a little different game if he's healthy on Monday night. What's the update on Jahan Dotson's injury?
I would mix. So he's as just a quick recap, he tweaked his hamstring against the Dallas Cowboys. Come back the week before the Packers game. Didn't really go the exact way he wanted to read more time. Now he's back on the practice field. He's a limited participant on Thursday. And it seems like he's trending towards playing. I mean, like the fact was a very, very good sign. And from what we were able to see on the practice field during the portion of the day, he looked pretty quick. He looked like he wasn't really bothered by his hamstring as he routes. He looks pretty spry, and someone asked what having Jahan would do for this offense if he was able to come back against the Eagles, and because I mean let's not forget that prior to his injury, Jahan Dotson was top touchdowns in the NFL. Like that just shows you how much of a weapon he can be, especially that makes so much of a difference in just getting open. He knows a space and turning it into a big play. Look at what he did, as he worked around against the Jaguars, made the play of the game to put them up. And then you look at against the Cowboys with a loss, but he still had some pretty good plays there. He even had a touchdown. He also had a pretty great touchdown against the Lions, where he had got just a little bit of defensive back and got up there and made the play. So I think tremendous things for this red zone offense. I've been my favorite players. I think some people thought it was a reach to pick him, but honestly, the way he performed, the way he played, I don't see that at all. And I think you were a guy like Taylor Heineke who hasn't had too many reps with him, but at the same time, target for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want him to play on Monday, but that's because I'm an Eagles fan and don't want to see him on the field. But yeah, he's definitely an explosive kid, and he definitely brings a total different dimension, adds another dimension to that offense. I mean, but even in his absence, Curtis Samuels has been pretty decent. I mean, he's been pretty decent. They've been getting him involved in the passing game. They even got him involved in the run game a few weeks ago, and he was that against. I forget who it was against. He had a 40-yard run. He's been pretty productive in the absence of Dotson, but Jahan, just sit it out. You don't want to tweak it. Just sit out one more week and make sure you're available for next Sunday. That's what I'm gonna go with because he's pretty explosive, and I watched him in college. He's one of my favorite guys too. No, best wishes. Get well. If you play on Sunday, I hope you perform. You just can't perform well enough to lead your team to a win. Um, so we played in week 3, and that game ended. I want to say 24-8, 24-8.
Yep.
And the big story was our defensive line had 9 sacks. Do you
Yeah.
think? I don't think that performance is going to be repeated. But have the offensive line in DC gotten a little better? Do you expect them to protect the quarterback better
Well,
this game?
I, so I'll say I'll agree with you. I mean, nine's an incredible number. It's you're not going to see very many defensive fronts taking 9 sacks on a whim. But I will say I do think the offensive line has. I mean, they still one of the the top leaders in sacks allowed. But I do some of that comes from Heineke's ability to extend plays with his leg by just enough more time to get these receivers some extra time to get open. I often use it as an example is fourth down against Heineke takes a couple steps up into the pocket, sees a rusher coming into his face, rolls out to his right, and then finds Curtis Samuel for that converts a first down. And likely, if they don't convert that first down. That just shows you the ability that he has to scramble, to get out. Obviously, statistically, they'll tell you that mobile quarterbacks tend to get sacked more. But the positive of that is that you're able to move outside of the pocket. You're able to get a legs and find receivers who are open. And I think that's what Taylor does. I think with the fact that the offensive line has been steadily improving. Now, of course, they've been dealing with their own injury. Chase Roulier is on IR. Wish Schweitzer, the backup center, is on IR. Is a pretty solid guy coming in there to replace him, but he's dealing with his own. So they have maybe Nick Martin, their backup would come in there and play. I think the group has made the best of the personnel situation.
So with this is going to lead into another question, but I have a question for you. The running back room, I've seen Gibson and like Marcus, you just had Gibson and Robinson. I think Gibson carried the ball 13 times last week. The Robinson's 11. Who's going to be the guy going forward for you guys?
So, it's the truest definition of a run back possibly get, because while technically, yes, AG is first on the depth chart, it really just depends on how the game is going to be 1A and 1B, because they do very different things. And pretty much since Brian Robinson got drafted, he is by far my favorite pick that the Commanders got. He is a true running back. He can find those tough yards between the tackles. He knows space. He can do a little bit in the passing game, but you're really going to find value in him just those creases better than I've seen a lot of rookies hit their creases. Alabama running backs, they're seeing holes that are just shoot, I could run through those creating. And a lot of times in college ball, the holes are already there as soon as you touch the ball.
Yeah.
Whenever you're in the NFL, the holes kind of as you hit them, and sometimes it takes rookie running backs to understand. But for him, it seems like he's got a very, very good knack of understanding that. And that's why I like him so much. You've got a guy who has a little bit more of a dynamic ability with his speed. He's a 4-3 guy. Plays. I mean, we'll go back to the Colts game here, and there was a lot of times where him on the backside of plays, and he was able to turn pretty decent games into even bigger games because he had the ability to make guys miss. And he's one of the top running backs in terms of missed tackles. I think if he's not there, and that just shows you how quick and how elusive he is. He's still in football, in my opinion. So you have a situation where you can use a guy against him, but you also have the luxury of having, okay, hey, we don't want one of our dynamic playmakers to get hit. Brian Robinson, who is a bigger guy, has more of a downhill physical style. Noah's going to be able to get those tougher yards and save Gibson for some of the bigger splashy plays.
Yeah, I like Brian. I remember I was just reading something about him where he said he wanted to improve as a pass catcher his last year at Bama, and that's something that he worked on, and he's continuing to work on. And he'll grow and develop and help out the passing game eventually. Just not Monday night, Brian. Just not Monday night. But eventually he'll grow because I like the kid. I really think it was horrible what happened to him, but I think even then he took time, reflect, worked on his game mentally, and he looks like a steal. Like I can't believe he went that late in the draft, honestly, because there's no way if you're redrafted he slips to where he was actually drafted. Um, Anybody on the defensive side of the ball that stands out to you? My guy Shaky B likes the cornerback Benjamin. How do you pronounce that last name? Saint Juice. Saint. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, St. Juice he's really stepped up. A guy who, had his own issues, trying to be an outside in his rookie year. Didn't really come on, until about late in the year. So now they've used him in so many different ways. So he started the year as more of a nickel. Once William Jackson got benched / hurt. And then put him on the outside, and that's where you've seen him really start to perform and do his best to shut players out. And then we'll take Justin Jefferson for example, now 15 yards, which is a great day, and he had a touchdown. And I mean, all credit best talented playmakers you'll see in the wide receiver position. And if you take away that first drive where he had three for the rest of the game. Now, granted, one of those was like a 47-yarder, but at the same time, good job of limiting his catches to where he wouldn't. Not necessarily he was out of the game. It was going to be a lot tougher for him to get the ball. And then you also see, of course, the pick six that was called back for a penalty. St. Jude's put him in a position to really affect the outcome of the game. And I think it was a good play had it not been for the penalty. A guy that I really think has stood out a lot, and I think it's a guy that doesn't get enough attention. Curl, the 7th round draft pick from 2020, who is really Jack is probably a little bit unfair to him because he's not just a gadget guy, but he's used in so many different ways. Right, like his responsibilities can change from week to week. He can go in close to the box. He can cover guys. He can play the run defense. He's actually winning safeties in the league right now. I think he's top 5. So that different ways. He's such a valuable tool because he's such a Swiss Army knife for a defensive backs coach, Chris Harris. Often in different ways in the same drive, if he really needs to. And I think the guys on the team, really battling for a spot. As I think he was only away from not even being drafted in 2020. Now he's probably one of the most important guys.
Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. I thought I might have lost you. I'm sorry. We have just a few more questions. I know you're a busy man. I don't want to keep you too long. I told everybody we'd be 15, 20 minutes, but I do have 3 more quick questions for you.
Sure.
What do you believe Washington has to do to win this game?
That is a good question, and I think it's going to stopping the run. We talked before we started recording about the Commanders held the Eagles to their lowest rush total all year. That's big compared to how well that the Eagles have over the past other than that game. I think they've had at least 100 rushing yards in every three against the Commanders, and a lot of it comes down to what they were able to do against Jalen Hurts. I mean, is one of the better rushing quarterbacks in the league right now. But if they do that against Washington, he only had 20 yards on 9 carries, and that's because of understanding the RPOs, really making Jalen Hurts to make him really. Whenever he did, he was often hit pretty hard by the who is, by the way, just straight out balling along with that entire defensive line. But he's having a phenomenal. Sorry there, but yeah, I think it's going to come down to rushing. Look at it. Other than that second quarter, the Commanders did a very good job. Of
they did like
they did a great job containing the Eagles. So
that's because dogs up front. You guys got those dogs up front, man. Allen, Payne, Sweat. Those guys aren't easy to move around. Like no matter what, they're gonna give the Eagles a fight. Like that's what I watch. Like when they played, when DC's playing Philly, I watch up front because I feel like you have one of the better fronts, and you're missing Chase Young. Like, and that's the crazy part. You don't even have arguably the best player on that line, and they do things like I love the Alabama. I love Payne. I love Allen. Sweat. He's a dog. Like I believe football is won in the trenches, and defensively, the Commanders are solid. The Commanders are solid.
Yeah,
they held Miles. Miles had 15 carries that game for, I think he had 40 yards. So that's like 3 yards a carry that game, like 3 yards a carry. They contain Hurts. And like you said, other than that second quarter where Philly got a few big explosive plays and Devontae Smith woke up and went crazy, they were right in that game. I mean, Quest had a pass interference. He had 2 pass interferences, I think, and maybe one was late in the first quarter, but they had the pass interference calls that helped them move the ball. But it's 24-8, but it could have been a lot closer because like the Eagles really only outplayed them for about 15 minutes of the game total. The other 45 minutes was a dogfight, if we're being completely honest.
Yep.
So that being said, you slow down the run. So that's what you think is most important. That's what strikes the most fear in you as a Commanders fan, the Philadelphia Eagles run game, or what's the scariest part about Monday night for you?
I mean, honestly, I think it could be AJ Brown. AJ Brown is a monster. Now, I grew up in Tennessee. Know a little bit about what AJ Brown's explosiveness can do. Watched every snap of his in Tennessee. The trade on draft night. But I mean, hey, the Eagles made a very trade for that guy, and it has paid off. I mean, he's their leader with 6'10". He's a big guy. He knows how to run great route, attack the ball when it's in the air, and he can just bully smaller defensive backs, and it's going to be interesting to see because he's had some really great plays. Had a touchdown against Washington. See how he does against Benjamin St-Juste, because St-Juste, at least from a height, an advantage over him, or at least is right up there competing with him in terms of height, a little bit bigger.
He's like 6'3", right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, AJ Brown is got.
He looks tall. I was watching. Yeah, I was watching him. And I didn't see how tall. I didn't get to look up how tall he was before I started. But I was like, he looks like a taller corner. So that should be a good method.
That was one of the strengths that about why they decided to put him at the beginning of the season, because he's got the size to hang out to go against receivers. Because AJ Brown also plays in the slot as well. But he to hang with these big receivers. He's also got the quickness to go up against these smaller. So I think that's going to be a big turning factor about how this game's going to play. Is that juice and AJ Brown? They went up against he went up against Jefferson a week ago. He battled his butt off according to Rivera. We'll see how it goes this week against AJ Brown.
All right, and before I get you out of here, can I have a prediction? Final score, player of the game.
So I'm going to avoid, because obviously now here's the problem with that. I was going to say Washington. Say, oh well, he works for the team. Of course, he's going to Washington to win a player of the game, and I think it's ultimately going to come down for Washington. You got to get Terry the ball. You got to get Terry the ball. You got to get it to him early, because that's the weeks what he can do to impact games. You can argue that he single-handedly won the game. The Packers. You definitely had an impact. With a great catch in the, he didn't get as much attention against the Vikings, but I think one thing that I will say that I do like about Taylor is that he knows that he's going to get the ball to Terry no matter what. Sometimes to a fault, because sometimes Terry just isn't open. And you can't blame him, because Terry is he's the best contested catcher. Catches first in yards, first in catches that resulting in 15-plus yards gains. He knows
how to. Always open.
Was that?
He's always open. Like Taylor feels like he's always open. So, and I mean, like you said, he makes catches. Sometimes I watch and I'm like, well, why is he throwing? And then it's like, oh, okay, it made sense. He went up and got it. Or yeah, Terry is one of my favorite receivers in the league right now. Terry, I don't think we appreciate him enough.
He really is. I mean, I've covered him since he got drafted by this team, and he is the embodiment of professionalism in class. I consider myself very lucky covering him, but I would say, Terry is going to be the guy that I think, and this team, if Washington can win, I think that's going to be because Terry is so active.
See, and I think completely opposite. I think if Washington is to win, it's going to be because of Robinson and Gibson are controlling the ball and gashing and they're running the ball. And then I think Terry might open up a big player too for Terry. But I think with the absence of Jordan Davis and how horrible the Eagles' run defense looked against the Texans on Thursday night, I mean, granted they've had 10 days to figure it out, but I think it's going to be a more of keep that offense off the field, and let's get our running backs going, and let's see if we can beat these guys up in the middle, because the Texans had a lot of success running the ball. The Eagles, Jordan Davis is such a big piece. We didn't realize. I think if you watched, you realize how dominant this kid is. But I think from the people who don't pay as much attention to the trenches, Jordan Davis missing gives the Commanders an opportunity to get that run game going, and if they get that run game going, it would open up things for Terry, Curtis Samuels, and Dotson. So I think if the offense is able to establish the run and the defense struggles the way they did against the Texans, I think this game will be a lot tighter than what people are expecting. 11 and a half is a joke to me, honestly. I'm thinking I think it's going to be more. I think I have the Eagles winning 27-20 because I think you guys will get the run going. I think Terry's going to get one big play, but I think if they're able to get the run game and Taylor's able to make some magic happen with his feet, I think this game will be a lot tighter than people expect. And then it's a division rivalry. It's Monday night. The lights are out. The lights are on. Everybody's watching. So I have it 27-20 Philadelphia.
So on the running game, I completely understand it. But at the same time, Terry, you need your playmaker. And Terry is that guy. I know, like that Eagle secondary is great, but let's not forget he regularly goes up against number one corners all the time. I mean, that the player Jair, he just blew past him, and knows how to get over. I think whenever you need somebody to ignite your offense, you know when to go to Terry. So I think it's going to come down to maybe the run can get going. When this offense sees Terry make a play, that helps them tremendously. I think if say if he even does just make one play, I think that would reverberating effect in the entire offense.
Yes, I agree. He's a spark plug. He's definitely the spark plug. And if you get him going, he definitely. Like I said, he's one of my favorites. Terry's one of my favorites. I met him briefly years ago, but he's one of my favorite receivers in the league, and I believe he doesn't get the credit he deserves when people talk about elite receivers in the NFL today. They oftentimes skip over Terry, but Terry is definitely one of my favorite guys to watch and play. And then if Dotson's out there, like this offense can be explosive. Like I just believe like when I seen 11 and a half and I seen that line and I was just like that. It's no way this is an 11 and a half game. It's no way that line should be that high. But good luck on Monday. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Guys, like and subscribe. More than welcome. Come back anytime. Follow Zach. You have his handle. Right there on the screen. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been great. Enjoy this dreary Friday. Drive safe if you got to leave from wherever you're going. Please stay safe. We'll see you guys again. Thank you for tuning in to Philly the podcast. I'm out of here.